What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus package update, daily news, pretty much everything going on here in our country and in Washington, D.C., money, investing, the stock market, pretty much everything you need to know about on a daily basis. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We just passed 390,000 subscribers. Help us reach 400,000. It's completely free to subscribe. This way you won't miss out on new videos. New videos come out here every day. 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll help you keep updated with what's going on in our country, this next massive stimulus package, as well as state stimulus checks, state stimulus packages, and other stimulus type programs that you might be eligible, as well as daily news that you need to know about. And if you find these videos helpful, don't forget to hit the like button for us, and let's jump right in. Okay, along with all that, a couple other things are coming up, and if you watch this show, you know about this. Number one, the government shutdown is going to be on December 3rd. Remember, they kicked that can down the road, as well as the debt limit, which is actually much, much more severe. Government shutdown's bad, real bad. Debt limit is 100 times worse. We can't have a debt limit. Coincidentally, that's actually the same date. That's actually an estimated date, December 3rd, because there's not an actual date on that. That's an estimated date. When they passed the debt limits, it was actually a dollar amount on there. It was $480 billion, which is estimated to go till December 3rd. So that's an estimated date. The government shutdown's an actual date on December 3rd. And the estimated date for the debt limit, which are two different things. A lot of people don't get that confused. Government shutdown, debt limit is where the Treasury, the United States government per se, actually runs out of money. If the government runs out of money, they literally can't pay their debt obligations. Child tax credit payments won't go out to 65 million children on December 15th. By the way, the November 15th payment is already going out. I've already seen a lot of comments from people saying they got their payment. So be on the lookout for that as well in the comments. And of course, every month there seems to be some fiasco that some people don't get them. They're late. They mess up something for some people along the way. So just be aware of that. I'll keep you on the lookout for that. But if the debt limit is not passed through this stimulus package, which is how the Republicans are kind of forcing the Democrats to do that in this next stimulus package, we're going to have a huge problem on our hand, because if the debt limit is not passed, which is basically the government's right to print money, they have to do that through Congress, believe it or not. They can't just print money. They have to have a bill passed that allows them to print money. And they have to do that every 1 to 2 years. Well, they only have a temporary agreement that basically goes to around December 3rd, okay? And the last time they passed it, which was only 2 months ago, they passed it with only 4 days to spare. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer from the Democrats basically completely blasted the 11 Republicans and Mitch McConnell from the Republicans 1 minute after they helped them pass it. So now the Republicans saying, we're not going to help you pass it this time around. So we have a bit of a problem on our hands, because the days keep ticking by. The Democrats have to pass a stimulus package in the House and the Senate. They probably can pass it in the House, but then they're going to have to pass it in the Senate as well with Joe Manchin, which we're going to update here on in a minute. And they're going to have to pass a government shutdown bill. Well, they've already kind of started the negotiation process on the government shutdown bill. Remember that the Republicans are kind of, at least right now, saying that they're going to force the Democrats to pass the debt limit on their own through the reconciliation process in the stimulus package, which means they're going to have to pass the stimulus package by December 3rd, or else who knows what's going to happen. And remember, the Democrats haven't even confirmed to us if they're actually going to put it in the stimulus package. The last we heard from Nancy Pelosi, when she did an interview, and we showed it here on the channel, which was a few weeks ago, Nancy Pelosi says, well, we'd rather not do that. We'd rather have a bipartisan agreement between the Republicans and Democrats, because that's how it's always been done. So that is the last we've actually heard from the Democrats. So they haven't even confirmed if they're actually going to raise the debt limit in this stimulus package. And remember, they have to pass it in the House and the Senate within the next 3 weeks and get Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema on board and actually do it. And we have the government shutdown bill happening. And here's this. Well, it looks like negotiations are already happening for the government shutdown. And they may have to actually happen for the debt limit if they can't pass the stimulus package. But I guess we'll have to see on that. The White House is putting pressure on Congress to pass the bipartisan government funding bill, which would be the government shutdown bill. And get this, the Senate Republicans are vowing to withhold support from the spending bill, which is the government shutdown bill, over border wall funding. Yeah, get this. 5 Senate Republicans say they will withhold support for any 2022 spending bill to fund the government unless money for former President Trump's signature border wall at the southern border is included in the government funding bill. So negotiations are already underway, and this is what Republicans are saying they already want in the bill. In a letter to their colleagues, Senators Ted Cruz, Mike Braun, Ted Cruz from Texas, Mike Braun from Indiana, Marco Rubio from Florida, Mike Lee from Utah, and Cynthia Lummis from Wyoming, all Republicans, said a government funding proposal released by Democratic-controlled Senate Appropriations Committee was inadequate. All Republican senators. Quote, the failure to provide sufficient resources is a continuation of the Biden-Harris administration's inability and unwillingness to acknowledge the humanitarian and national security risks created by its open border policies, the elected officials wrote, the Republican senators wrote. We write to indicate that we will withhold support of any negotiated fiscal year 2022 omnibus funding agreement, the government shutdown bill, that fails to appropriately fund our nation's border security. It says here, President Biden has sharply reversed many of his predecessors' policies, former President Donald Trump, along the southern border and halted construction of the wall. The border has seen surges of illegal migrants since Biden took office. In September alone, more than 14,000 Haitian migrants living in Central America crossed into the U.S., briefly created a tent city under the bridge in Del Rio, Texas. And omnibus spending bills, which are government shutdown bills, provide critical funding to keep government functions operating. They have become increasingly contentious in recent years, causing government shutdowns in 2018 and 2019. Now, remember, we have the government shutdown and the debt limits. Now, make no mistake, we've had government shutdowns before, just mentioned there, 2018, 2019. We cannot have a debt limit breach that would create a financial collapse of our economic system. Literally, that's like the U.S. government running out of money. We'd probably see a stock market collapse. Our government's credit rating would collapse. We've had Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen say that it would literally cost the U.S. government $15 trillion, which is like half of our national deficit. Literally, it's something that can never happen. It's something that can never happen. Both Democrats and Republicans have considered in the past literally getting rid of the debt limit because the vast majority of spending has to be approved by Congress in one way or another anyways. And they've also considered giving the raising of the debt limit to the Treasury Secretary. One way or another, they're going to have to raise it. They have to raise it just to pay the interest on the past debt alone. Even President Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer have said that Social Security payments could be at risk if they don't raise it. Child tax credit payments could be at risk. Basically, any type of money coming from the government would be at risk if the debt limit is not raised, because it's literally any money coming from the government is at risk. They can't do that. We've had government shutdowns before. We can't have a debt limit ceiling. It's literally that dramatic. It literally could be a financial collapse of our economic system. And that's probably why they need to get rid of it or pass the raising of the debt limit to somebody out of the Democratic and Republican hands, because you see that even just for the government shutdown, we have this negotiation tactic between Republicans and Democrats where they do this over and over, where they're just like, I want this, I want that. And it's become a kind of negotiation tactic, right? And they're going to probably do this with the Republicans are already doing this, saying we're not even going to vote for it. Democrats have done this in the past as well. Democrats have not voted for it in the past as well. So, I mean, I'm not picking sides here. They both do this, which is why that they need to take that debt limits. They honestly probably should do it for the government shutdown as well. They need to take that away from Congress, because it's just literally just harming our country. And all this is going to happen here in like T-minus like 3 weeks or so. Maybe even actually less than 3 weeks at this point. It's, yeah, probably like less than 3 weeks at this point. So I'll keep you up to date here. It's just never ending. Here is Democratic Senator Hirono from Hawaii on the stimulus package and thoughts about Senator Joe Manchin regarding the stimulus package and what might happen going forward.
And I just want to shift gears a little bit now back to legislating, what you were actually elected to do, which is to pass legislation and actually work for the American people and your constituents. One of the things that we saw was a historic infrastructure bill that passed that's going to alleviate not just our roads and clean water, but has implications for a brighter future when it comes to climate energy and so on and so forth. However, now the second part of this plan, the human infrastructure, the one that will build back the population we need to actually drive on those roads and take advantage of those electric vehicles, is up for discussion. Senator Manchin right now seems again to say that he may not vote for this bill because of inflation. And Senator, one of the things I often have conversations with is that people could care less about the price at the pump if they can't pay for childcare and get back to work. Can you speak to this?
I agree with you. 4 billion women left the workforce during the pandemic because they had to take care of their children and their families. And so a huge part of Build Back Better is to lower costs such as childcare costs, to provide pre-K, which is really important for young families. And so I disagree with Joe that Build Back Better is going to add to inflation. In fact, economists rarely agree about anything, but 12 Nobel Science economists say that Build Back Better is actually going to not add to inflation and will be anti-inflationary over the long term. So we need to get on and pass the Build Back Better to lower costs for families and to address climate change and all of the other parts of the bill that will actually strengthen our families and our economy.
And Senator, I want to actually quote a tweet back to you that you tweeted. It says, I would like to set the record straight as to who actually is working hard to help American families. As we continue to work on hashtag Build Back Better, what are the Republicans doing? Nothing, nada, zero for American families. Now, there's no doubt that if we saw what the Republicans did last time around, where there was zero support for legislation, in this case, you have folks, for example, like the delegation of Texas, where none of them voted for an infrastructure bill, despite having a terrible grid that made people go into freezing weather and barely survive in some cases. Now, we're seeing perhaps the ability that they're going to come back and take credit for a bill that they did not vote for. How can you better message this? How can the Democrats better make clear who is on the side of working families?
By communicating it much more effectively, by really showing the roads and the bridges and the broadband and all the things that we're doing through the infrastructure bill, for example. And by the way, the infrastructure in our country has been neglected for decades. And remember when President Trump said we're going to do infrastructure that lasted for like 10 minutes and he wanted to stay pay for 80% of it. So that got nowhere. So now with this infrastructure bill, we're going to do all the things that we've neglected for so long. And one more thing that I would like to mention regarding Build Back Better, that's all paid for. Unlike what you mentioned what the Republicans did the last time, which was to create this huge 1.9 trillion tax break for the richest people and companies in our country. That's what they did. That's what they're proud of.
Yeah, so the physical infrastructure package is supposed to be signed here on Monday by President Biden, which, as she stated there, Republicans have wanted physical infrastructure for many, many years. It did get, I think it was 32 Republicans between the House and Senate to vote for it, including Mitch McConnell. The only reason they even voted for it is because Republicans have been for physical infrastructure for a while. I think that the vast majority of Republicans that didn't vote for it just didn't vote for it because they really just don't want to help Biden, would probably be the main reason. I mean, of course, there's probably a lot of different reasons, but we do need infrastructure. It's been a long time since we had a major physical infrastructure package. But as you can see here, it's probably going to take probably several months to get the vast majority of this physical infrastructure package up and running. And this package is supposed to create millions of jobs over the course of the next 8 to 10 years, which is a good thing considering that 4.4 million people quit their jobs last month alone. Yeah, as you can see here, the number of people that quit their jobs last month was 4.4 million people. That's a lot of people. I just can't even get over the amount of people that 4.4 million people quit their jobs. That's the highest number ever in the history of ever. So that's a lot of people to think that, and it's just so many reasons: the pandemic, low wages, people are just unhappy, and just everything's been exacerbated, supply chain issues, and it kind of makes you wonder, why are people, and maybe vaccine mandates. You got to kind of maybe wonder why now? Why are so many people quitting their jobs right now? And it's just, the highest number ever right now, 4.4 million people. So it's just a lot of issues going on right now, man. It's just the supply chain issues just really, really hurting America right now. And this infrastructure package will have a lot to do with that. It will help our country get back on its feet with the supply chain shortages, but that is going to take a while. They're saying that for the money to start hitting for the physical infrastructure package is going to take 90 days. So 90 days is going to be like February. So none of this physical infrastructure package is even going to help in 2021. So it's great they got this passed, but and none of these jobs are going to be created this year. So it's going to be good for the future of our country, but it's going to be in the future. So the other thing is that they could be voting on this stimulus package, the Build Back Better package, as early as tomorrow in the House. So Congressional Budget Office reports are going to be coming in. We're going to have a lot of information coming out here over the next 24 hours. We're going to have to see what keeps coming in for Congressional Budget Office, what news comes in. I will keep you up to date because we're going to have to see what they're going to do in the House of Representatives, what news unfolds, and if they hold the votes. So remember that the agreement is that if the Congressional Budget Office reports come fully back, which I don't think they're going to be, that they would vote on it in the House and pass it in the House. I don't think the congressional budgets are going to be fully back by tomorrow. So the question is going to be, is what is back, which is going to kind of be Congressional Budget Office estimates instead of full reports, are the Democrats, because remember, none of the Republicans are voting yes on this next stimulus package, are the Democrats in the House, this is not Joe Manchin in the Senate, this is the House, are the House Democrats and the moderate Democrats going to be willing to vote on this package and pass it? So it's really the moderate Democrats, because remember, the progressive Democrats were willing to vote on it anyway. So we really just have a handful of moderates that were demanding this. And remember, they can only afford 3 people. to vote no. So anything more than 3 people saying no, we want the full reports, we want to see the pay fors, we want to see the full demographics of the pay fors and the budget reports and the details. Anything more than 3 saying no, we need to see this, could hold up the vote in the House. The other thing is that Joe Manchin might request this as well, so just keep that in mind. It's also very, very, very likely, almost 100%, probably 100%, that I almost could just go on record. I can't go on record and say 100% because nothing in life is 100%. That whatever bill passes the House is going to be changed in the Senate. Okay, because it's just a 99% chance that whatever bill passes the House is going to be changed in the Senate. Okay, I can pretty much just say that for sure. Joe Manchin's kind of said that. That's just probably what's going to happen. So Joe Manchin's even kind of gone on and actually said, I don't have the quote in front of me, the House should just pass their bill now, which is what they're trying to do, because the Senate is going to change it. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So whatever the House passes here, the Senate is likely going to change it. And that's where it's going to come down to final negotiations between Bernie Sanders, Joe Manchin, Chuck Schumer, Elizabeth Warren, Kyrsten Sinema, and the Senate. And Mitch McConnell's actually even had a quote that said, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema are going to be writing this bill. Of course, they're not. Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema aren't actually writing the bill, but he kind of put his, Republican spin on that, kind of putting a negative connotation spin on that, which he kind of has a point there that they're kind of writing the bill. They've kind of significantly cut down the bill, but really if I could put a positive spin on that, is really what they're doing is that Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema have cut down the bill significantly, but really what's happening is that they're just going to pass this smaller bill now and just pass what they can agree on now. And then they're going to come back around for the next stimulus package. President Biden has already confirmed that basically they're just going to pass this $3.5 trillion in 2 different pieces. Okay, so this package is now $1.75 trillion to slightly over $2 trillion now, and then so they're just going to pass this first half of it now. Then they're going to come back around and start working on the next package, and then pass the next half. So 1.75 and then another 1.75. This bill is more than $2 trillion now. We've heard up to as high as 2.4 trillion, but remember the Senate's going to come back around and modify it, so it'll probably go back down after they remove immigration and change it up. Okay, so let's just say 1.75 here and another 1.75 here is going to be 3.5 trillion. So Biden kind of feels like he's going to get the 3.5 trillion anyways. It's just going to come in 2 different pieces, right? So I'll keep you up to date here. Make sure to subscribe down below if you haven't yet. It's completely free to do so you don't miss out on new videos. Remember that new videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to have a lot of big news coming out here in the next few days. So you can click here to watch my newest stimulus video next. And this video was a video from yesterday, which has a new utility, well, not a new, but a utility program out called LIHEAP. You can get your utility bills and your gas bills and utilities paid for. Definitely want to check that out. It's in the second half of that video, but if you didn't see that, you definitely want to watch that. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.